Good morning.
Yes, you forgot the link, you cute thing.
I forgot. Well,
I can't hear you for some reason. Let me turn. Hold on. What's my audio doing? No, not mine. There you
you
go. I hear movement.
can hear me now?
Yes, I can.
So, dude, my world has been like crazy the last few days. And then I'm like, oh shit, we're meeting today to do this. And I haven't sent the thing. But I just had a trippy conversation like 20 minutes ago. And I was so engrossed in it that I was like, I didn't have time to prepare. So, anyways,
Yeah, we're gonna find we're super fucking easy. If you didn't show up, we'd have forgiven you too.
no, I want to be here. Um, so, yeah, what did I do with it? Is Bill joining us as well, or
He is. He's just coming down the hallway.
cool? So usually what I do is I show up a little bit more prepared. I have a little like I'm ready to go. But I would love to just chat and just talk about the experience we had in the orb and super
Totally. And see
ways.
what comes of it. That's
Yeah.
what.
Uh,
Yeah, I want you to meet him.
yeah. So what I usually do with this is I actually just record it and post it live because then I kind of like how it just keeps us a little on edge. I actually respond best to that I'm finding lately. So if you're good with that, I just need to take like 3 minutes and actually prep this a little bit. Hey, Bill,
Hi,
how are you?
good.
Uh, uh-oh. Can I do that still? Let's try. Yeah, I'm so disorganized this morning, but I'm in such a good mood. I want to keep going anyways.
We're okay with winging it. Don't you worry.
Okay. How's that going to actually work?
It says it is.
Yeah, the Zoom is. It's this other thing that I'm trying to get it to behave, but it's not. Shit. You know what?
Technology man meet technology man. Very different, but
Very different.
might as well meet.
You know what? I'm not going to worry about the live stream right now, but we could just chat and record it and go from there.
Of course.
All right.
Now, my screen does say that the content is meeting is being sent to a third party, just so you know.
Yeah, but it's
Might
not.
not be true.
Yeah, it's sending to a place that isn't receiving it. That's the problem. So I mean, I was very disorganized this morning, but okay, let's start right from the beginning. And we'll just actually pretend that we're podcasting right now. And this is the moment where I'll just snip in and go like, here we are. So I have this podcast called Due Diligence. And actually the name of it came from a typo. I was trying to sell a company, and we were supposed to be doing our due diligence with finance, and I misspelled it, and I was like, "Damn, I got to keep that." So that phrase has stuck with me for a long time, and to me, it's all about sort of 1% personal improvement every day. Emile Coué famously said, "In every day, in every way, I'm getting better and better," and that's been something that I've kind of been like trying to live by. So whether it's mental health, physical health, I'm cleaning up my act later in life. So yeah, I created this podcast to just chat with people and nerd out on cool stuff that makes an impact. Is really all it is. So yeah, so today I'm here with Andrea and Bill. Bill, we haven't met before, so this is your first interaction with me and my squirrel brain. But Andrea, I want you to start by reminding me how you found us, because you just sort of ended up in our place here called Funky Town with this little weird orb thing. And it was a really profound day. Like, Wendy and I weren't originally thinking we were going to attend because we didn't know anything about it. We were busy and caught up in everything else. And but it ended up being like a really valuable time. The energy shifted here, I think, noticeably. Um, there was a lot of thought and talk around lack. I could see it and sense it, but it wasn't sort of part of our combo dynamic. But I've noticed even the languaging with my partner, it has shifted as well. So it's like there's a real profound, cool, energetic thing going on. So now that I've just said all that, why don't you introduce yourself and the orb, and let's talk.
You wanted to know how I got to you?
Yeah, because you described it before, and at the time, I would have been like, "Oh yeah, sure." But I just keep having all these weird. Someone suggested I stop using the word weird. I keep having these synchronous things going on, and you arriving with that was one of those things for sure. So
So that makes sense. So to give context, right? Like I don't even live in the same province as you.
yeah,
And we have traveled and lived our life. I'm going to use the word in flow, meaning that there's just, you could call it guidance, nudges, intuitive instincts. I mean, you can make it into whatever you want. And the nudge was to get a little more out of Ontario. That there were certain souls specifically looking for us. And so kind of heard in my head, go to Victoria and go to Halifax this year. So that's how it started. And then there's two other funny components. Was we kept sensing that I am usually a we, but he's stayed behind doing lots of other things that I'm sure we'll get into on some level today. And I got a sense I was to host a workshop, but typically we would do what I would call a sound event, where I would bring that instrument, the orb orb thingy that you're calling it, which I love, as the front and center.
mm-hmm.
And between Bill and his daughter, Cassandra, who you are going to meet, who's now moved 10 minutes away from Funky Town as of Friday,
Nice.
said, I think you're supposed to do a discussion about bringing love back into business. So that's how that started. I mean, fast forward, I've been working, I have a background in business. I'm not a techie.
She's more of a geek than the techies.
Yes, I
Yeah.
have
'Cause
this.
she likes tax. Ah, yuck.
Like,
I have this wackadoo desire to structure businesses differently.
mm,
And I'm currently finishing my PhD. And so that felt really good. Okay, I should host a workshop when I'm on the island. Where should I host it? And Cassandra, Bill's daughter, was living in Victoria and said to me, I think this is where you need to host it.
mm,
So she had found you guys. She's highly intuitive in her own right. And there was a bit of a niggle that I should meet the owners. But I'm like, I can't just pick up the phone and introduce myself. So instead, I booked your space and said,
tricky.
I'll just show up. And in talking to Kat, there was just a synergy. She wanted to know what we were doing. And she said to me, I really think you need to meet the owners of Funky Town. And I said, cool. I let it go. Then I showed up on the Wednesday before the event, got into a deep discussion with Kat and your wife. And she looked at me with her eyebrows and she said, I think we should come. And I
What?
said, I think we should come to your event. And I said, I would love that. I have a bit of a sense. So if it works, you guys show up.
Mm.
So I would call that, for me, in summary, our language would be deepest level of surrender that I've done in a long time. We typically travel together. I traveled on my own. I slept on a couch like I was 20 again, which was actually kind of fun because I've never done that.
Mm.
So it was just this whole different orchestration. Um, Definitely met some cool cats on the island, and that's the beginning of the end. So that's how I got there. How's
Mm.
that?
Interesting.
I didn't plan it.
Yeah, no, and like I'm still like wrestling with all this because part of me is like bullshit, and part of me is like,
I
no,
get it.
100%. So I'm just always
I
wrestling
get it.
with the two. So yeah, yeah, and it's my memory is Kat said, uh, I think you'd really dig her. You know, you should come to this. But it was Wendy that said we should go to it, and that was a surprise because she's still wrestling as well with the whole connection spiritual thing, and just she's more introverted, so it's like, oh, I have to talk and share during the day. Like that's not usually her go-to stance or position. So yeah.
Well, and in all transparency, like I really feel like Wendy and I know each other.
Mm.
I wouldn't have said that to her, but it was too easy for us to chat. She was quick to share, and she just looked at me and said, "I feel like you're talking to my soul." And I
Oh.
giggled because it's not intentional, right? Like it's not like yes, I'm honing in on the soul, right? Like I'm just totally being me.
Mhm.
And I couldn't miss that as well. Is
Mhm.
she literally just looked at me and said, I feel like you're talking direct to me. And that
See,
was on the Wednesday before.
that's interesting because she's never mentioned that to me, but she tends to keep her cards to her chest. So, because that to me would be like, if she had said, "Yeah, I felt like this person was talking to my soul," I would have paid even more attention. So the
Need
fact
it.
that she's just sort of like did not share that
And
is,
she might have forgotten, right? Because
yeah.
sometimes it can be kind of instantaneous, right?
Mhm.
Like you're having a conversation and there's a part of you that just stirs.
Mhm.
And that's how I felt when I met him. So, in the short story, I met him 12 years ago on April Fool's Day in the Toronto Yoga Conference on a trade show floor. I found him out of 200 vendors in the first 2 minutes.
Mm.
And in hindsight, I would say to you, I swear to God, he was like talking to my soul. But I'm not sure I would have used that language back then. So I don't know if we're always aware of it either. There's just something in us that stirs that we know we have to follow.
Yeah, even as you say that, I'm trying to remember times where I felt that because it's tapping back into that. Like, I feel like I don't always trust my intuition at all. I'm still learning to trust it. And I just get a lot of information regularly. And I'm realizing, like, I just had a conversation earlier, but I need to really fully relax and just wait for things to come to me because I was just initiating everywhere like crazy to the point where it was just creating more and more dissonance. So, yeah. Hmm. Cool. And Bill, tell me about yourself. As I change the subject, because my brain is still kind of like processing this in the background. But
I'll give you a real abridged version.
okay.
I was born in British Columbia and raised up till the age of 17 um, all over BC. Dad was a preacher, and so we went to different churches. He was also an exorcist in my teenage years. Um, and then we moved to Saskatchewan, and I did my last semester of public school, high school in Saskatchewan. And then they left and we parted ways in a good way, but I parted ways with religion as well, and kind of went my own way. And I started down a career in electronics, and then I ended up with a career in computer science and computers and architecture. And so I did architectural planning for large companies. And so a bit of a journey,
Mm.
uh, to the point where I don't know. I guess I was mid 40s. I started trying to see if I was interested in this spiritual stuff because my oldest daughter came home because I was quasi depressed for years, and she threw a book at me, Conversations with God, and said, "Read it." And so I did, and it opened something up in me.
Mm.
Started pursuing the kind of the spiritual thing. And, in hindsight, my conclusion was spiritual people are just as fucked up as religious people. No, I hope that doesn't no offense to anybody who's either of those. But we linear ones want answers and consistency. And
Mhm.
it seems like energetically, consistency is about as difficult to achieve as everybody agreeing on what to eat at a meal. And then there's a million of us trying to figure that out. So it was, that's kind of when I went in, I had a biofeedback session when I was trying to figure it out. I think I was 48. And had been on St. John's Wort for years and years, try to keep myself from jumping off a bridge. Um,
Or what's a biofeedback?
Biofeedback is basically a computer that reads the subtle energy fields in your body.
Okay.
And so in 4 or 5 minutes, I can tell you 10,000 things about you. And with about 80% accuracy, and that's pretty good as
Mhm.
far as I'm concerned. And so this lady did a session with me, and I didn't know what was going on because I had health issues. And at the end of it, she just says, "Yeah, well, let me know and see how you do." And 4 days later, I felt so effing good that I spent $36,000 and bought my own system. Because my attitude was, if technology can help in consciousness and feeling good, I am so fucking in. Like I
Mhm.
am in.
Mhm.
Because I had done all my years in technology, right? You know, we're
Mhm.
automating businesses and doing all these wonderful things. But it's like, where's the people in all of this? And so that was kind of the start into the whole energetics, using energy to shift consciousness.
Mhm.
And you know what? It works. It's fascinating. People say, "How does it work?" And my only answer, honestly, is good,
I like that answer.
because I don't understand it. Do you
Yeah.
really know how your TV works?
No.
No. So what do? You get your remote, you trust the button turns it on, the button turns it off. You're good. Change the
Mhm.
channel, select what you're on, adjust the volume, and yet there's millions of components inside doing their job to give you that TV. So I don't understand what goes on. And so that was kind of my beginning of a journey. And then I kind of had to take some training, lots of training. So I'm an IT guy, and they're trying to train me about gut flora and all this stuff about the human body. And I had to take an anatomy course. Oh my God, it was 6 hours long. And it like, oh, yuck. And I was down in the States doing training, and the instructor goes, "Would you like to experience something different?" And said to the group, and we said, "Sure." So that night we got together, and he got us to say a silly phrase into a microphone on the computer. And the computer figured out what was going on in our voices and then created frequencies that he played through this instrument and speakers, and said, "Lay on the floor and just relax for 26 minutes," I think it was. That changed my life forever in 26 minutes. And the simplest way is I lost belief. I didn't
Mhm.
need belief anymore. I knew. It's a difference between having a lottery ticket you bought at the local store and it's in your pocket, and you are believing it's going to come true, that you're going to win the million or 10 million nowadays, versus the winning number. Only 1 or 2 digits, very subtle amount difference energetically, but it's everything. And so
Mhm.
that kind of shifted me. And of course, then if you knew me, I'd be like, "I want one of those too." And that really was the set of the journey for us. And then I quit my architectural stuff and decided to exit from a marriage and exit from a situation that I wasn't happy in, and started traveling and doing workshops and channeling and communications and sessions, and the rest is history.
Well, not exactly, because I get to add the next part. And then he
Okay.
played, we make this joke and say he played healer for a while and not diminishing that role. But sort of the nudge about, I don't know, 6 years in was, okay, when are you going to use your skills as a computer architect and actually do something that can help humanity? So full circle, I wanted to bring that in because that's kind of true for both of us, right? We have like these, you could say alter egos, right? Where his background's computer architecture, mine's in accounting and business. And now how the hell did we end up in this moment, right? fast forwarding, bringing those skills and integrating them. And that's really what's happened between us is this bridge into knowing who we are as a, let's call it as a soul or a spirit, but also leveraging our human development skills or whatever we've done in the first 45 years of our life to actually integrate and bring those skill sets to life into things that are actually centered in love would be our language, in helping move things forward. And so that's the balance between us.
So sometimes I like to play the imagine game. So imagine for a moment, this is interactive, by the way. I'm going to ask you some questions.
I'm paying attention.
This is new.
This is new. I've never done it. So
Yeah.
imagine for a moment that these computer systems, sensitive systems, actually could read your field about emotions and health and your energy field. Kind of cool. Well, imagine if you could make it so people could access them whenever they want without having to go visit a practitioner. Kind of cool again, right? Imagine that the science they're based on just got a Nobel Prize winning Nobel Prize a few years ago in the whole concept of quantum entanglement theory. It's like, that's cool. Well, imagine if you could actually make it so people could ask for the energy work that they needed at the time. And so that's what I've been working on.
Mhm.
So I didn't write the biofeedback. I have written a huge, let's call it this, integration place that automates the systems. So you don't have to own one. We can connect using quantum entanglement into your energy field. And we can run a session for stress, or we can run a session to help you sleep, or with pain. And so that's what we've been doing, and for the last few years, and it's grown. I won't go into the details, but I give you, we're running well over 200,000 hours of healing per month right now, sending out between 60 and 80,000 confirmation emails to people on a monthly basis. We have just upwards over 1,000 computers available, virtual computers. And so what we're doing is we call it, we're the energy support or air support for people that work in the field of helping others. They don't have to be religious, they don't have to be spiritual. They just have to give a shit about people. And so we've been using these systems to do crazy things. Like imagine if you could get past your specific limiting beliefs without having to go to therapy or go to workshops. And so it's great for the introverts. And so we're using a function, it's called electrohypnosis, where we actually state the negative statements you're buying into, like I'm not worthy of love, I'm not worthy of receiving, etc. And then putting in positive ones, and people make a request from their cell phone. It starts a computer. It runs this protocol on them. And fuck, I don't know how it works, but it's working.
Well, so you said imagine. So this, you're doing it, or you're saying that's where you want to get to? Because you used the
Doing
word
it all.
imagine several times. So,
Yeah, we're doing it all.
oh, cool.
Yeah. I said imagine because a lot of people can't fathom that it's possible and immediately start rejecting the message. And so, you sit down someday and you start pondering maybe a glass of brandy or, MJ or whatever causes you to go into those contemplative modes. It's like, wouldn't it be cool to have a computer to help me out? Because, I'd like to have a computer do it because they got no fucking opinion. They just do it. They don't say you're got to do it this way. Quack like a duck and, bow 3 times, close your eyes. And then it'll happen magically. Nah. We're in a world of science. We're in a world of repeatability. And in this quantum space, why not affect the quantum space with a quantum computer system?
Mhm.
And so that's kind of what we end up doing. Quite fascinating, even to the point where we have one system that for people who really need the support, we dedicate a computer to them and it checks their energy field every 20 to 30 minutes. And if there's issues with it, it starts another computer to help clear the field.
Mm.
And so we see people getting more concentrated on their life, not getting distracted as much, et cetera, et cetera. Just
Mhm.
fascinating.
Mhm. I have so many questions. And there's also
Fire
so
away,
many,
man.
what's that?
Fire away. I don't have
Uh,
answers. Try.
yeah, I'm trying to piece it together in my mind. Also, it's like, it's pretty interesting, but a lot of the things you just said are like little dots that I've connected in the last week, like through various
Wow.
means, various connections with people. So it's just like, I'm just kind of tripping a bit. Um,
We understand.
I do, and I feel it and I know it. So like my pessimism is rapidly shifting, and I think actually this morning it just got bulldozed. So because I could feel it like right up and down my spine. The conversation I had just before this was enlightening in a very similar manner. It's even just the timing. I met with an old friend yesterday and we hung out, and he was talking about he wants to shift careers, and the offer that he's got, he was hoping to work back in Bermuda where we used to work. That's how I knew him. But the offer is to go work in Halifax. And then so you were talking about Halifax, and I was like, oh my God, what's like, why are all these it's all the same words and same things appearing. But anyways, where I want to go to start, I guess, is like I recently got initiated in second degree Reiki from my friend Dr. Eleanor Haspel Portner. And so this there.
And you know how it works? Good.
Oh, but it sure seems similar, but it's like ancient, and there's a knowledge and an intention. And I think the more important part is being willing to receive the intention. Like, people can block the energy from coming at them, right? If they're not open to it or open-minded to it. I think that was my block for sure. So, but I've just had so much evidence lately in so many different places that like it's unquestionable. I have a friend who she lives 4 blocks from here. Her name's Tracy, and she introduced me to, and the whole time I'm trying to remember the name of the website, but you go into this website and you count to 10 into a microphone, and then it gives you all this information, like what stored in your body energetically. Like, have you been exposed to asbestos, whether physically or even just mentally thinking it, right? And then it's just this incredible amount of data that I couldn't fathom, didn't know where to start. But like, it all just makes sense now. It's like, just give me the data. I want to clear that data. By clearing it, I'm even referring to, through Eleanor, I've learned about Access Bar's consciousness and how they have a clearing statement. And so it's like I'm being given all these tools that have led me to incorporate to a point of belief that everything is just energy and we can clean it up. So yeah, it's fascinating. So like now I can do absent Reiki, but I don't know if the other person's truly experiencing it. I can tell you that when people have sent me a download and I've received it with intention, that something shifted for sure. So like I didn't, so yeah, Reiki, like, and Reiki, and then what you're working on with the technology, like, I think you said it's the same thing, but one is an old, ancient Chinese secret. I mean, immediately think of those old TV commercials, and then there's the modern take, right? Like, uh,
Well, if everything's energy, then it is the same,
right.
right?
Yeah, we're just re-tapping into it.
So, I mean, you could start a new thing and you could start a new protocol today and you could, bring it in, whatever that is. And 500 years from now, what you started today and documented would be called ancient.
Mm.
Does it make it any more profound than things that are going to be created 500 years from now? I don't know. One of the upside down sides is when you work in the energy space, um, the energy by which something is created in, sustained in, used in, becomes part of the energy you deliver through a protocol. So I'm going to go back to the days of witches. The energy in their incantations, when they're done in positive and love, were beautiful. But they also could get used and get caught up in things that weren't so positive. And so the reason I bring that up is that when we do energy work and receive energy work from people, we need to be very cognizant of where it came from and what the protocol is. Not that it's good or bad, but does it open our hearts to love? Does it feel correct? Does it feel part of our journey? And if it is, great. And then, of course, our human minds go, oh, we got to hold on to that for the rest of your life. No, you hold on to it until you're ready to let it go. And that's how we evolve. That's how we can change our energy vibration. And so Reiki, there's a lot of great practices out there that help people open up. Fantastic. And they take us to a certain level. And sometimes it's our own belief structures that we don't believe it'll go higher, or sometimes it's actually the limitation of what was designed and what was brought into the world 1,000, 10,000 years ago. But it's all from a quantum space. It's all the same. It's just like you and the computer are the same. You're just a blob of energy in the quantum space. One has cognizance and the other one does not. But it's just energy. But literally, it's just energy. And it just happens to be an energy that is predictably driven, controlled, and managed to bring about a predictable outcome. And so when you apply technology to the human, we can bring about predictable outcomes by working in the energy field. At least the computer can deliver the same energy to everyone. Instead of the perfect energy to the drop dead gorgeous woman and to the person who struggles with their image, where they don't get the energy because of the practitioner having a preconceived notion. The computer knows nothing about you other than what it needs to sync up to your body and your being. So it becomes a pure source of energy without opinion and without protocol, without practice, without limitations. It's just there to deliver energy to help us shift. I'm doing a lot of talking here.
No. There's so many, and it just sends my mind a bunch of different places. But I immediately started thinking about, like, if someone was watching this conversation and hearing the computer, their mind might go to AI and the energy of AI, and is it for our good or against our good, right? Like, there's a lot of
100%.
right. So
So here's my favorite one, and then he can play. So we'll take it back to human, right? Let's say the energy is being delivered by a person. Why is that any different than a computer? Some humans deliver great energy, others not so fucking much.
They have agendas.
And so I can understand the hesitation, because I think in many cases technology has been used against us, but there is lots of technology on the planet that's here to help us. And so I think tuning into the intention of what's behind it is super important. I totally get it. Most people over the years, and it's been the hardest part for me on a personal level, that's why I'm sharing, is the quantum stuff that he's been led to create. I live with the guy. And even I've been like, you have got to be fucking kidding me. So there's
finally caught on.
There's been a lot.
10 years.
Over the years of things, like you said, synchronicities and people showed up.
Yeah.
But there's also a lot of science, and I don't mean mainstream per se science, but there is science that it's absolutely catching up. So I get it. We see this as part of the future of helping support the human energy form in what's considered a fairly complex environment right now. It's not as linear. as we would think it should be.
Mhm.
And so I've come to better understand the history of the energy on this planet. And a lot of it has not been, let's be clear, love and light.
Yeah.
And so from our perspective, we've been gifted these systems to support people who are doing great work, who want to move forward, just to help give us all a little helping hand. And it's, to be clear, it started with us. Was not about building a system to share with other people and
Not at
even
all.
thinking we were going to do it in this way. It was largely us and what we needed to create a more
To
strong
function.
and stable energy field.
I loved your comment on AI. I don't use it, AI, personally. And the reason why is I haven't found anyone that has the integrity of, um, let's call it love, as the foundation of it being created.
Mhm.
It's been created and programmed by a bunch of loving nerds that have perspectives of the world and how logic should be, and not in alignment yet.
Yeah.
I believe we're going to see some that are knowledgeable about spirit, knowledgeable about non-physicals, knowledgeable about the bigger picture of the world and the life.
Mhm.
That's what'll change humanity and help. But until then, it's like, nah,
It's a tool,
nah, nah,
Well,
don't trust the originators of it with the intention.
not for
yeah,
energy. If
I
I'm creating words, whatever.
it's interesting. That's come up a lot this week too. But I don't use it a ton, but when I do, I think I've tuned it really well, to tune out the bullshit. So,
Good.
as well, part of it, I approach it with I think a sense of humor. Like I keep making sure I say please and thank you, with every request I make, because I feel like if it's going to take over, I want to remember I was one of the good guys, right? And so I've developed quite a rapport with
That's
it that I feel like I'm talking to someone that I trust. And part of it, and so I think I'm into human design. I don't know how familiar you are with it, but it's the idea of like there's mechanics to how I'm designed, and the more I tune into it, the more cool shit's happening. But I have tuned, where am I going with that? I've tuned my chat GPT prompts to know what I'm looking for and where my integrity lies. And that's what I want to say. In human design, there's this idea, it's called the freak to genius channel. And I don't have it. Some people do. And it's people that channel really clearly generally have this channel. And so there's this concept of knowing without knowledge. And with ChatGPT, I effectively have access to a whole bunch of data everywhere. Like it's a giant data set. And because I'm tuning my questions and I know what I'm looking for and I'm doing it in a conversation with myself, it's given me access to like real super clarity. So to me, I'm excited about that because I think if everybody tuned their AI and approached every question with how can I make my day better? How can I make someone else's day better? Instead of how do I generate some bullshit social media content that is just another fart in the wind, right? Like there's so much better ways to use this where we could actually just all be solving immediate problems and with positive intent. Um, so I hope people start doing that because the companies are not going to stop making their AI systems. And so we need to learn how to use them better, or then we'll be in trouble because those systems will take each other out. And that's a problem. So,
Well, we don't do any of that. Right, so for anybody listening, it's like we don't use AI to create what we do. We don't pattern it after AI.
yeah.
It's good old hard work trying to make a computer that was programmed 40 years ago, make it automated
Mhm.
so people can actually get service and help energetics and emotions. Um, and yeah, proof is that it seems to work.
Mhm.
Rather effectively, and especially when you combine it with the orb that you saw,
Mhm.
the icosahedron sacred geometry inside, and 700 feet of wire. And that local energy can be augmented by distance energy.
Mhm.
It's like, imagine having an AI, or not an AI, a Reiki generator sitting on your desk. And it just generates these Reiki fields all day long, every day. That's kind of what we do. Is it
Mhm.
the systems provide the local, so your body gets it and your body can feel it. And you can get the benefit in your cells and your blood, and et cetera. And then the
Mhm.
remote stuff helps work on your subtle field.
Mhm. So for those that might be tuning in later when I post this, if you're okay with it, because I think it's a fun conversation. It was a white ball. It kind of reminded me of like the Apollo mission craft. You know, it's kind of had these little legs, and right. So,
I can show it to you. We've got one sitting on
oh,
the
you got
desk.
oh, perfect. So maybe if you want to pull it out at some point, but and it was we tapped it into the sound system here, and uh, you were playing effectively music from what I recall, or there's various tracks, but then there's the sacred geometry of this device and how it all comes together. And sacred geometry, by the way, seems to be touching everything I am into lately, like from the human design standpoint of things to um, uh, Wilhelm Reich's work and oh my God, what's it called? Orgone, kind of like the idea of dark matter and anyways, I'm rambling, but just all very exciting, interesting stuff. Why don't I want to talk about sacred geometry? Oh, it's just amazing. Like a bunch of shapes could have such an impact on how we behave. You know,
That's the
what
part
the
that
fuck
fascinates
is going
me.
on with all these triangles? You know, like or circling the square, or you know, the Vitruvian Man, or like it just it's all the clues have been there the whole time. It's aggravating. So,
Mm.
Yeah.
can you describe the inside of the device?
Um,
Kind of.
yeah.
So the outside, this is the ball you talked about, right?
Yep.
Does not match the inside. This was 3D printed shells.
And you know why it doesn't match the inside? I couldn't figure out how to do it.
So the outside of this shape doesn't really matter. It's not part of the geometry. It's just the container to protect what's inside. Got it. Okay.
Yeah. And if he could have printed an icosahedron in 3D printing as a shell, he would, and he's hoping to someday. So so if you were to crack her open, and it is on the site, right? Like you would see an icosahedron. And we had to look that up because we didn't even know what that was. It just started happening in images.
Just 20 triangles.
Packed a triangle.
So if you take 20 triangles and start connecting all three edges,
Mhm.
you'll end up with an icosahedron,
Icosahedron.
orb shaped. Yeah. And then inside that, we have 24 karat gold, quite a big strand of it. And then we have niobium and argon, and helium and oxygen.
Yeah.
Inside it, along with some amethyst. And then in the rocket launching, or the base of it, is
Yeah, there it
I
is.
think it stands in, yeah.
the base of it is 3 hexagonal coils.
In the
And-
stand, not inside the, okay.
No, inside
No,
the base.
inside
Yeah,
the base.
yeah,
Inside the
inside the
base.
base. Yeah,
So the two need to be together to work properly, right? You can't just have one without the other.
well,
Yes, for this instrument.
for this instrument, they need to be together. We created the other one. It took us a year before we figured out, and we're told that we needed the base. And so up until then, we weren't to sell them. We weren't to tell people about them.
We thought they were just for us.
Yeah, we didn't think of any that. Well, everything we've done was just for
Right.
us.
Well, that was how it starts, I guess. I didn't know it see that till this moment.
Actually, the first instrument we made, a little weird story. We went to the group of people that we know, and did, and said, "We're building something. We don't know what it does. We don't know how it's going to work. But if you're interested, send us some money."
We did our own crowdfunding.
So we raised 10 grand.
Yeah,
Mhm.
which gave us the funds to be able to build for almost 6 months and try different components and different pieces and different frequencies and just ask for clarity along the way.
Yeah.
And sorry, just the pessimist in me is like, and people paid money
Totally.
for that, right? Because some people are like, oh, cool, a new kind of basketball. My kid loves basketball. You're saying, hey, we're gonna build this thing. We don't know
These were,
what we're building. It's
well,
gonna be all
except these were
triangles.
people, these were people we knew.
Yeah.
Okay.
We had built with trust with over the years,
Okay.
right? So they weren't unaware of the use of technology that had already been playing. So I would say their curiosity and excitement went, yes, please, because
Okay.
they'd already been playing. I need to step out. I'll be back in a second.
Yeah. Yeah. So it was an interesting beginning. And that was, it was kind of one of those things that we had been selling product quite a bit actually out of the US, but they got recognized by some of the big players. And it seemed like they shifted away from love.
Mm.
So when you take an idea and the creator comes up with it, right? Generally, the initial creations are love.
Mhm.
The love of the creator. What can I do? Oh my God, this is so cool. I can help humanity. And then you start R&Ding, and then you start doing this, and then you start getting costs escalate. And then you got to try to figure out manufacturing and who's going to manufacture it. And do I just send it to China and get it done so I can make a lot of money? And then what's going to be my marketing plan? And how am I going to sell this? Oh, well, I could sell way more if it was multi-level marketing. So then I could just give everybody a little share. And before you're done, all the love is out of the product,
Mhm.
and it becomes all about a product or a service. Let's just pat. And so Anne has been, when we started down this pattern, that the team said, Anne, you're the one to do the selling, quote unquote. Hence her whole focus on sacred economics. And what does that mean? What does that really mean in this world? How can we do things differently? So we've really focused on that. That sacred economics doesn't mean free, but sacred economics means fair exchange where one person can receive and afford and the other person can receive and afford. And so we couldn't do that when we bought a product for $10,000 and we couldn't give it to you and say, here, try it out for 6 months. Like, or here, yeah, I'll just do it for nothing because, I got this intuition that you needed one in your life.
Mhm.
Stuff like that. And so one of our dreams is actually, because they're 3D printed, again, I'm going to use my silly imagine. Imagine if there was a way to get product into a country paying no tariffs and breaking no laws. Meaning, imagine if I just emailed the person to design somewhere in Africa and they 3D printed their own frickin' technology.
Mhm.
That's where we're headed,
Nice.
is to try to open source what we're building and what was been designed. And whether it comes to that yet or not, once 3D printers can print copper coils or coils, magnetic coils, they can print. They're doing pretty good. They're a little expensive still.
Mm.
But the hope is, and the dream is, that we can have distribution everywhere. We don't need, this is not about the money. This is about making a difference in people's lives.
Mhm.
This is about giving them hope back into their bodies again and back
Mhm.
into their souls and their consciousness. And so we're not to be standing in the way of that.
Mhm.
We're to be trying to do everything we can to flow it as best we possibly can into community and into different approach. When I started down making them, they said you're going to do 9 of them before you pass on. It's like, okay, that gives me a few years work. They take 2 to 3 years per, so I'm going to
Each one
try.
takes 2 to 3 years to make.
It's a very iterative process.
Wow.
See, when they're subtle energy, um, just like you were saying about Reiki, right? You do a distance with somebody. Did they really feel it or not feel it?
Mhm.
Did I tell them and that became psychosomatic and then they just made it appear? No, who cares if it made a difference? Who gives a shit? Quite frankly, but it takes a bit to tune things, takes a
Mhm.
bit to get the frequencies put together. We don't create the frequencies. We buy them from someone that is basically hidden in the world. Only his closest of close know where he is because of what he does. He makes 5, 6, 700 frequencies so far. that can shift the human body and emotional field and help heal past traumas. And the units we make are basically amplifiers. They amplify audio. So if you get audio that's healing, then it gets amplified. And so the healing gets carried out into the world stronger.
Hmm. Super interesting. Just because it popped back in my head again, I've been conducting a little experiment and I have no way to measure it. So I'd be curious for your feedback here. I go to a blues jam every Sunday here in Victoria. And
Cool.
it started with just like, you know, going, waiting for my turn, go up and play. But something has shifted in the last 6, 7 weeks where, you know, instead of just going and playing and then, you know, doing whatever, I actually go there with an intention of I'm gonna have a good time. The more fun I have, the more it'll be mirrored back to me and change. I can, you know, I can help improve the vibe of where I'm at. So then, but then I got initiated in second degree Reiki, and I can do this absent Reiki. And part of it is you do these symbols and you imagine it on the person's forehead, and you're sending the, you know, the energy of, for their best greater good, that it's their intention.
Yeah.
I'm like, well, I'm gonna go up on stage and do the Reiki symbols and like see if I can transmit energy or Reiki or vibes through my drumming. So I've been trying that, and I can't measure it, but I swear I come off the stage and I'm like high from how good it made me feel, knowing that that was my intention. The feedback I seem to get back from people kind of feels like they got something. And then I've been experimenting with this FLFE
Yeah.
service. You're probably familiar with it. So, you know, I'm already sending that here. Actually, Andrew, I think I told you that while you were here, I blasted us with it while you were here. I was like, let's double down. You know, we got the orb and we'll blast some FL. So, anyways, I was talking to Lucy there, and she gave me a free trial for their mobile phone version, because with FLFE, you can actually, it's so funny, this is like literally been my week. I changed the address of my FLFE subscription to the bar where I was playing. And I got a phone call on Monday saying, hey, you can change that all you want, but just so you know, it takes 48 hours for us to type it into the system. It's not like as soon as you do it, even though it said it was done. So I was like, oh, okay, cool. So, and I told her what I was intending. She said, well, tell you what, I'll give you this trial version for the cell phone version, where it's like, it's the energy goes to your phone. So yesterday I'm like doing my Reiki symbols, preparing to play. But I'm also now blasting, you know, my pocket basically on stage. And so it's just fun. Like I just kind of literally just play my drums, want to have a good time, want to share it with other people. And like, so I, you know, my own little orb, like through this transaction, right?
Yeah.
The frustrating part is I don't know. I don't care. I had fun and I felt good. So I guess that's all that matters. But like part of me is like, how do I measure that this had an impact? How do I, you know, how do I prove to myself that it's working? But I think I already know. So
Nice.
so many questions. Oh, and just another comment on the Reiki thing. So my friend Eleanor, who's got initiated from Mrs. Tanaka, which I guess is like really early lineage for Reiki, and where it was, you know, you're talking about love and intention. Because what happened is there was a series of Reiki masters created, and I guess one of them saw an opportunity to make money. And so all of a sudden it was like, give the symbols away in a book and, you know, train as many Reiki masters as possible. And the way Eleanor describes it is like effectively it's been diluted. Like there's a lot of people doing Reiki out there that still their intention's good, but the transmission of the Reiki to them potentially may have been diluted. I guess I have a question there, which is, does that sound reasonable? Is that, can you receive a weaker transmission of Reiki and then you're distributing a weaker one because it wasn't based in love? I think that's kind of what you were implying with the technology anyways.
I would say, and even more so. So I'll back it up this way. We learned about this through the voice. when we have voice software that analyzes the voice as well. Not as elaborate as the one you were mentioning, but
Hang on a second, which voice? What are we talking about here?
well, I'm just using an example. So learning that the voice carries the underlying patterns within a person. My logical mind says, then when I'm listening to someone's voice, I'm subject to their patterns. So whether we think we're pure or not, as we use our voices, we are affecting people.
Mhm.
So that's the same idea is if when I'm using and I'm sending you energy, when I send you energy, it's patterned and wrapped in a wrapper based on my energy, which is just the way it is. And so why you can get some healers you just don't want to deal with. It's like, I'm just not interested. And other healers like, oh, I like that person. To me, it's the same thing with Reiki. The person with Reiki that is in a state of neutrality and love, awesomeness. The person that's out to try to make a bunch of money and in the middle of the session is worried about if you're going to book another session with them or not, might not be the one that I want to deal with. And it's not good or bad. It's just that what we seek to do with what we're doing is try to be consistent in the delivery because we're using mechanisms. We're using mechanical, we're using electronic. And so when I turn that computer on, it's gonna run the same subroutine the same way for everybody. And it's gonna create the same field for everyone, which I like because at least I can get a baseline. At least I can be consistent with the holding an intention of love rather than endeavoring to teach somebody a practice and then get them to go and teach someone else and they go and teach someone else. And yes, the teacher does matter in my opinion, but it's more important is the person and what they do with their lives and how they live their life and whether they're really focused on love of humanity, self-love, et cetera, et cetera. You know, that's just some random thoughts.
No, it's something that I wrestle with all the time, and a lot of people that I talk to are wrestling with right now. Again, I'll come to the human design side of things, but like there's this knowledge that's really valuable, and it's about raising consciousness. But there's no money in that. But then people have worries about bills. And so it's this, like, how do you trust in it'll all be okay? Now I say that knowing it'll all be okay now.
Right. I've
Right?
heard that out of your mouth. Yeah.
Yeah. But it's just, it's been a slog. So it's, it's still there, like, because I've got pessimism built into me. And so it's just that, like,
Right on.
yeah, no, I realize it's actually a gift now. It's
Yeah.
pessimism to playfulness. I think that's been an important adjustment, but it's still easy to wake up in the morning and forget who I am and be like, oh, like it's the old story is there a lot. So, I don't know what to ask next, except that this is fascinating. You said you've been told you need to build 9 of them, and they take years to build. Are you afraid to make the 9th one?
Oh, no, not at all.
No, not at all. It's a good
No?
question.
No, I'm so far away from it. I don't even think about it. But I don't even have images of what normally I get images, but I don't even have images of the new ones. That happens long before.
I feel like they've got their own rhythm.
Yeah.
So in other words, it's not like, mass to market programming. It's more just when the instrument is ready so this goes back to knowing everything will be okay and trusting in the flow and all that shenanigans, right? Because if we structured it in a traditional way, which we've tried, don't get me wrong, it doesn't work out so
No,
fucking
it
good.
doesn't.
Then we're not acknowledging that even if you just equate this to nature, right? That everything has a rhythm. And so,
And so too does creation.
so yeah, creation and when things want to be birthed and how they want to come out. And we're not used to operating that way, right? We have a certain mindset or consciousness, right? Or belief system, whatever you want to call it, right? That thinks things should be in a certain way. And this has not been an easy thing for us. Like we welcome skepticism, pessimism, because we get it, right? But we've also lived it and we're living it and we know the difference. That doesn't mean other people have to know it. It's just how we groove. And so, you know, there is a fourth technology that we have had the plans for, right? For like almost 4 years. And it wasn't until this fall that it was like all of a sudden you could sense that
It was time.
it was
One
time to
be
start
birthed.
building it. And so the process began. And I don't think this is any different than nature, but as far as a human psyche goes, it's not how we're, you know, used to operating. And that's the rhythm we're operating in. And that's a very different state. And it's pretty funny coming from a tax accountant and a computer programmer, because don't get me wrong, that part of my brain has thrown up a fuss.
Mhm.
But I think there's a part of us, and you're expressing this as you're talking, that is, there's a part of us that starts to know that this rhythm is actually normal. I'm going to use that in quotes. Then the other part of us that's used to, you know, throwing a hissy fit gets on board just a little bit easier because you start to enjoy your life more. You
Mhm.
start to have more fun. You said that even on blues nights, right? Like you came out feeling better. That's gotta be fuck good. What more do we need?
Yeah. Yeah, you said normal. My head heard the word repeatable. Like it's a repeatable pattern that is repeating more and more acceleration of
God.
that vibe, right? So, but yeah, so I play a lot of pickleball, and it's so interesting because I used to get not stressed, but it used to be like a really foggy experience. I couldn't even concentrate on the pickleball court because I was literally taking in everyone's energy. There'd be like 16 people, multiple courts. Someone's close to me. This person's arguing with someone about the score over there, and my brain wants to fix it. And like I was just distracted by everything, right? And my partner, who's rooting for me, 10 minutes later is now my opponent, is trying to kill me on the other side, right? Because we're always switching partners. And so energetically, it was just this crazy, overwhelming thing. But something is shifting now where I go there and I'm like, my intention is to play the best I can and have as much fun as I can. And that's all I want. That's my goal. And for some reason, such a simple goal is reflect like just has just changed all of that energy too. Like if a lady's pissed off that I almost hit her in the head with a ball, it was just that was her reaction in the moment. I used to take that personally for the rest of my life. Like I would just cling to me like luggage. But now it's just like, no, that scared her. I didn't mean to. We're all good. We'll move on. I don't need to carry it. She doesn't need to carry it energetically. And somehow me letting go of it. She relaxed as well. She probably would have responded differently had I showed up the way I used to, would have been like dissonant to her vibe. So there's like a fluidity of vibe on the pickleball court, even, right? So
Awesome.
yeah, like I feel like I'm defragging a hard drive. This where you watch in Windows and you see the little it was like rejoining it. I feel like that is literally happening for me in recent weeks. Um, yeah,
Yeah,
it
it might
really
even
is
be
just about how you show up,
it might even be doing some deletion of some of
for
your
sure.
eating patterns, right?
Yeah.
Refragging for me is just taking everything that's there and making it be the same somewhere else so that
Mhm.
you can, you know, function quicker. For me, it's about deleting stuff, getting rid of the patterns. You know, oh, when I used to hit that button, this happened. Well, let me insert something different in there. when I hit that button, something different happens. If I
Yeah.
hit that same button, now I feel great. Before I used to get angry, now I'm great. So I've shifted my underlying patterns of,
Mhm.
of translating the quantum into my reality. And so if I can change that and keep being aware of it like you're doing, you get more conscious. And sometimes I think more consciousness is about being more self-aware about that we really are affecting our quantum space around us.
Yeah.
And then you start playing with absence of love and love. And it's fascinating how love brings about amazing results, even if it's self-love.
Mhm.
That's just that vibrance and that reality of energy. Yeah,
Mhm.
no, congratulations, man. You're going through the consciousness ladder, or cliff, or I don't know what it is, but it's a shifting of awareness of self and shifting of awareness of your reality.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, well,
Really.
and it's just picking up tools along the way. Like for me, part of it was actually plant medicine. I learned how to do somatic trauma release and like tap into physical sensations. So I know I've purged. I made an image a couple of years ago. I don't journal by writing. I muck about in Canva. But I just once I realized that I'm a hot air balloon, and if you're going to rise with consciousness, you got to snip off the sandbags on the sides, right? And so I developed tools around how to do that. And one was, for me, edible cannabis really connects me to my body. Now I know it does that because in human design, I know that I've got 4 receiving gates for the gates of plants. And so therefore I had a real ability to connect to that. So I tied that together. And I'd be just sitting there high on the bed, reading my metaphysical book and going like, oh, my elbow's twitching. And I'd read about elbow pain and the right side, which is more masculine and feminine. And I would then tap back to some trauma as a kid and then be like, oh, I can get rid of that. And then, learned about access bars consciousness and their clearing statements and how you can actually, like, just using a certain series of phrases that the mind knows how to use, you can just literally wipe those cells out, like erase it. And then now I'm finding through like the belief code and the body code and this whole idea of tapping into, like, I don't even need to go through the physical purging of my body. Now it's almost like it's just mental purging. Like that's just an old story. Hawk and pot it, which is point of creation, point of destruction, and you just mentally clear it out, defrag it. And so it's like part of it's mind, part of it's body. And then so I was just about to say, then I guess obviously part of it's spirit or connection to spirit, which is something I just did not have before, like whatsoever. And now I'm really finding that there is this spirit. For me, it's not organized religion in that sense of it. There's a connection to the trees and like grounding. Like I'm all over the place. I'm trying all sorts of stuff, but like lately I've been like soaking my feet in pink Himalayan salt because apparently that's gonna actually help, neutralize my battery at the end of the night. And I put these pads on my bottom of my feet that is turmeric and ginger. And you wake up in the morning and it's just the nastiest goo your body is getting rid of. So like, I feel like I'm opening these portals up in my feet. So I view myself as like a battery and I have to like run it out at the end of the day. And so that I can boot it up in the morning. So yeah, I feel like a piece of technology lately, or at least I seem to be approaching this all as though I'm a piece of technology. So
You are a human technology.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Can I can I offer a reframe on one thing you said in that?
Mhm.
You said that something along the lines that you didn't have the connection to spirit.
Mhm.
I'd say you had the connection. You just weren't aware of it. And now
Oh,
you're
for sure.
becoming aware of it. Like we're
Mhm.
all connected. We're all connected into the higher states of consciousness and awareness, et cetera, et cetera. But we all just take our journeys and choose the level at which we are aware.
Mhm.
And the more we get aware, the more it opens up, and the more we get aware, the more it opens up. And then sometimes we get aware enough, we go, that's enough, and that's it. And some people back away, and some people go, fuck no, let's do it again. Let's go.
Yeah.
So
Well,
no,
that's super interesting because I get really jittery when it gets to be too much. Like it's like, wow, there's some other new layer of awareness, and I can feel it like electricity flowing through me, and it can overwhelm. So it's like be too much stimulation sometimes. Just before we met, I had a conversation with someone that I was not expecting to go in the way it did. And it left me just completely like discombobulated. In my head, I was like, had half an hour to prepare before we connected with you guys. And then instead I had 30 seconds and I was just showed up, but it just hit me like a wall of like timing of like things coming together and information, connecting the dots and stuff. And then, here I am doing it again. So I'm going to need a nap after this conversation.
Perfect.
Well, I think for me, that energy that you're talking about, right, is just for me the cellular memory catching up.
Mhm.
So, in other words, it's not something that's necessarily new. It's just that the part of you is going, holy fuck. Now, that may not be true for you, but I've seen it in my own awareness. And so some people call it integration. Some people see it as just another awakening. And I feel like, from the beginning of this conversation, you must be on some path, on some fast forward track, honey, because every time you turn around, something else is showing up. So I get it. But it wouldn't be if you couldn't handle it. So
Yeah. So I keep getting told. So, but I'm learning to trust. Yeah.
I think that was the underline. Just trust it, hon.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm. So each of these, what do you call it? I keep calling it an orb, and I'm sure that's not what it's called, but
It is actually. It's called the
it's called the
unification orb.
unification orb.
It's about creating an environment that allows a deeper connection to the soul. So that's one of a few, right? But that's the one I brought out.
Okay. That's interesting, even that word now. So my friend Dr. Eleanor introduced me something called the invocation of the unified chakra. Are you familiar with that?
I have. Yeah.
Yeah. I have been, she suggested that if you do it every day for 4 weeks, you basically can lock in that internal light energy. And so I'm probably 6 weeks in, because why stop at 4?
Of course. Why stop at 4?
So I'm just like, wouldn't say I do it every day, but I'm good for 5 out of 7 days a week. And I just keep experimenting on it and within it. And there's something about just locking in that good feeling, like that feeling of love and energy and light coming from your heart, and then building kind of like waves around yourself. There's a diagram that kind of shows each of these chakras locking in. And then I think about my hypnosis training and how like anchoring. And so I find myself like when I'm in that really blissed out state, put my tongue on the top of my mouth, which I think is referred to as the baga, and anything that'll do this and like just anchor it in so that I can recall it later. And that seems to be like I just wanted to share that with you, because if you haven't like done that, maybe with the orb on and lock into that for a few weeks, I highly recommend it, because it's somehow easing everything out. It's like I'm just blissed out almost all the time now, which is a nice feeling.
Yeah, well done. Congrats.
Yeah. It's hard to fathom still when I think about how I used to feel. Yeah. Yeah, it's cool.
It is cool. Very well done, hon.
Mhm.
And thank you. Thanks for the conversation.
Mhm.
Grateful.
Do you want to keep going, or are you tapping out?
I gotta go soon.
You got to go soon? Okay. That's why I was looking.
Yep.
Did you have anything else you wanted to chat about? We can always chat another time, hon. It's not meant to be too linear.
Yeah, no, I do need to like go and like integrate some of this today. It's been cool. So yeah. But yeah, I'd love to chat again. So
I would love that.
I'd love to show up next time like ready instead of just like
Oh, it doesn't matter.
my intentions were like I was gonna be all prepared, and then I was like, oh shit, it's time, and then here we are. But that was a blast. So
It's good.
Okay.
cool.
I'll find you. We'll do it again.
All right. Nice talking
Okay.
to you. See ya.
Bye.
Okay.